Mecca is the most prestigious and well put together land in all of Ruma, but we ain't here to talk about that. Sybil, the cyborg goddess who runs the place, has set up an entire new world right under everybody's noses. That's where the Undercity comes in. The strict rules of civilization that those fools above ground have to follow don't apply here. And if you think this is the slums of Mecca, then let me stop you right there. The Undercity is exactly as its name implies, and from what we've learned, Sybil doesn't do anything halfway. The Undercity's name isn't just a clever way to say that we live underground. It means that Sybil literally built an entire city down here. It isn't the worst part of Mecca. It's more like Mecca's reflection. The only difference is we can't see the sky, but there are plenty of lights to make it feel like we are above ground. Now, that doesn't mean that those who live here are just as prim and proper as those living above. We've come to embrace our little ruleless underworld, and despite the fact it doesn't need to be this way, we still treat it as survival of the fittest. At least in the part of the Undercity where I'm from. Each area of the Undercity is labeled as a sector, so my home sector is Sector 45. That number should be enough to show you just how large the Undercity really is. How Sybil had time to build this place is still anyone's guess, but when you're an omnipotent cyborg, I assume you can just do about anything you want. She didn't skimp out on the finer details either. I imagine the city above us is very similar in design. The Undercity was a marvel of engineering and ingenuity. A sprawling metropolis of towering skyscrapers, bustling streets, and a thriving community. Sure, you had some parts that were more along the lines of the world above us, but there was a mutual understanding that we didn't have to live like them. So, everything was fair game. If you saw someone who owned a shop trying to make a living and you wanted something from inside, but you didn't have the money, it was your cyborg-given right to storm right in there and take it. However, since this was a very heavily technology-driven city just like Mecca, you better be prepared for that same shop owner to have the most advanced military technology at their fingertips, and be ready to fight for your life to get what you desire. As for me, I don't care about material things or ruining some shop owner's business. I, like many others down here, live for the hunt. Above us, Magia, the mystical land of magic on the other side of Mecca, is separated from Mecca by an enchanted gate that Sybil put in place to keep Magians out. Down here, we don't have that luxury. Granted, not many of those living in Magia know about this place, and they don't frequent the underground or live there like we do. But that doesn't mean there aren't any magical beasties left over from the days before Sybil's reign when magic ruled Ruma. The origin of our little Hunters Guild might surprise you too. It wasn't set up by us, because for the most part these magical monsters couldn't make it into the Undercity even if they wanted to. Much like above, our security is top-notch. We just don't have the aforementioned enchanted gate, so nothing is getting in unless we allow it. Now you must be thinking, why have a Hunters Guild at all then? Well, that's the scary part. This little community of hunters was put together by Sybil herself. You didn't think the cyborg goddess would set up an entire civilization mirroring her masterpiece above ground and never frequent it herself, did you? Heck, I think she might spend more time down here than up there, if I'm being honest. Most of the hunters don't get to interact with her. We see our leaders in conversation with her all the time, giving us orders and pointing us toward the next hunt. The hardest part of this gig is the fact that Sybil almost always wants the targets brought in alive. No easy task when fighting magically enhanced beasts. What Sybil does with the monsters after, I have no idea, and to be blunt, I don't really care. Nor do I want to know. What I do know is that the pay is great, and being in the good graces of the cyborg can't be a bad thing. My fellow comrades don't always feel the same, and that's probably why I climbed up the ranks in our little guild so fast. I have no interest in leading or talking to Sybil myself. I'm only here for the thrill of the hunt. So thanks to my loyalty, I get all of the best jobs, and also all of the toughest ones. Now that you know a bit about me, you can understand why I have so many hunting stories to tell, and none of those stories live up to the one about the Mutaforma, aka the shapeshifter of Magia. These monsters are tough enough as it is, but now you add in one that can take on the form of anything it wants, including Rumans, and it opens up a whole new element. Despite the tough lifestyle of the Undercity and the crazy life I choose to live, I never had to kill another Ruman before, so I was hoping this thing never took on the shape of one while I was fighting it. Looking back, it would have been a lot easier to kill one of my own kind than whatever this thing kept changing into. On top of the fight itself, the whole hunt took weeks, because how the heck were we going to track a monster that changes how it looks whenever it pleases? All of the technology and mecha could not prepare us for this one, but many consider me the best at what I do, and I have a reputation to uphold. Thinking about it now, I bet Sybil thought I died with how long it took us to get back, but no. We didn't die, obviously, and we got the job done. It was the middle of the 3rd week when we found it, and we only found it due to dumb luck. I could have sworn the beast knew we were tracking it, and it kept hiding to take us off the scent. But then one day it transformed right in front of us, like it wanted to get caught, or knew we couldn't defeat it. Boy, was it wrong to underestimate us. I never wanted to be a leader in the sense of running the guild. When it came to leading a hunt, I was all about it. I didn't want someone else calling the shots that I would have to argue with, especially when I have all this experience, and whether they want to hear me say it or not, I know best. That's why this thing wasn't getting away from us no matter how hard it tried. I knew if the fight didn't go its way, it would escape and transform. So the moment we found it, we set up these electrical sticks Sybil gave us that form a force field around the beast. First half of the fight featured the Mutaforma turning into multiple different animals trying to force its way out, and having no luck as we attacked it with everything we had, trying to make the fight brief. In my experience, these fights never go easy. The moment it finally realized it wasn't getting out, it transformed into a giant gorilla. Each form it took on was accompanied by magic flowing through its body, and this magically enhanced gorilla was extremely powerful. And we were starting to realize that trapping this thing inside the force field meant we were also trapped with it. Needless to say, a lot of our hunters didn't make it out alive. And I've already told you that the Undercity was survival of the fittest, so it can't come as a surprise that I used a lot of them as cover for me to formulate a plan that was going to take this thing down. The first thing I did was send out a distress signal to the guild. If I could get them to come out here, it didn't matter if I died trying to take this down. They would still be able to secure the target after. Then I stabbed another one of those electrical sticks into the ground, as I dodged the attacks from the Mutaforma. The first as the gorilla, and the second as some type of magical tiger. I placed more sticks in the ground as I moved. Finally, I made a force field within the force field to contain it even further. Inside the second force field, I also placed a small device that releases a tranquilizing agent. All this effort did was make it angry. It transformed into a large, mole-like creature adept at digging, forced its way under and out, back into the territory with me in it. It could have gone all the way out and ran, but I was the only hunter left, and I guess the Mutaforma thought it was personal now. I noticed the tranquilizing agent seeping out of the hole it made, and all I needed to do was buy some time. I reached into my pocket to pull another toy out of my bag of tricks, and I dropped a smoke grenade. The beast sniffed around for me, but I pretended to be dead as I laid down among my fallen comrades. I figured I might as well give it a taste of its own medicine by hiding in plain sight. It worked. For a while, at least. But the Mutaforma finally sniffed me out, and just as I was planning my next move, the tranquilizing agent caught up with me. Luckily, caught up with us both. I woke up a few days later in an infirmary in the Undercity. I thought I was dreaming because the person standing over me when my eyes opened was Sybil. The cyborg goddess looked down at me, but I couldn't tell if she was relieved I survived, disappointed with how poorly the mission went, or just didn't care. Though she must have felt something to be standing here at this moment. I got up slowly, the effects of the tranquilizer. That was definitely meant for things much bigger than Rumans. Were still hitting me pretty hard. I looked around the room for the doctor, but noticed it was just me and the cyborg. "Well done. I knew you could do it," Sybil finally said, much to my relief. That was the hardest mission I assigned this division yet. The others died, I replied. I didn't really care that much, but I wouldn't label it a job well done like she was doing. Sometimes sacrifices have to be made. You understand that. The others do not. She spoke the words in a way that I still couldn't tell if she was happy or mad at me. Was she setting me up to be the next sacrifice? I found the strength to stand. A magical shape-shifting monster had a solution I could solve. If Sybil wanted me dead at this moment, there was no counterplay. Before I could answer, she walked over to me. I have been searching for years, and you are the only one to pass the test. I hesitated. I had to pick my next words carefully. This was all just a test. For what? Sybil looked at me and smiled. I didn't know she was capable. She said, "The real mission."